The Roman Empire, one of the most formidable powers in world history, began as a republic. It was a society that prided itself on its values: democracy, respect for the law, and a well-structured government. However, by the time Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC, the republic was already on the brink of collapse. The events that followed, including the assassination of Caesar and the resulting civil wars, paved the way for the rise of Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The early Roman Republic was a model of democratic governance, but by the 1st century BC, the cracks began to show. Increasingly, powerful military leaders sought to gain control, using their legions not for the defense of the Republic, but to assert personal power. Julius Caesar was one such leader. His military conquests had made him immensely popular, and upon his return to Rome, his political rivals feared he would use his power to become a dictator. The Senate, filled with fear, ordered him to disband his army. But Caesar made a fateful decision. He crossed the Rubicon, declaring war on the Republic itself. This was the start of a series of events that would forever alter the Roman political system. After a long and bloody series of civil wars, Julius Caesar emerged victorious, only to be assassinated by his own senators in 44 BC. The death of Caesar created a power vacuum, and the fight for control of Rome would intensify. The most notable figures to rise from this chaos were Mark Antony, the loyal general of Caesar, and Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir. In the aftermath of Caesar's assassination, Octavian, the young and ambitious heir, faced a long road to power. Initially, Octavian was met with skepticism. He was only 18 years old and lacked the military experience of his rivals. However, Octavian's ability to build alliances and his political savvy soon became apparent. He formed a powerful triumvirate with Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus, effectively controlling the Roman government. However, tensions within the triumvirate were inevitable, particularly between Octavian and Antony. Antony, stationed in the east, formed a relationship with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, and this alliance further strained his relationship with Rome. Octavian, back in Rome, capitalized on Antony's growing foreign influence and his refusal to return to Rome, presenting him as a traitor to the Roman Republic. This strategy worked, and the Senate declared war on Antony and Cleopatra. The ensuing conflict culminated in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian's forces decisively defeated Antony and Cleopatra's fleet. With Antony and Cleopatra defeated, Octavian became the undisputed ruler of Rome. The civil wars that had raged across the Roman world for years had finally ended. Octavian's victory was a watershed moment, but the real challenge was yet to come. He had to navigate the tricky waters of Roman politics, balancing his power while maintaining the semblance of a republic. In 27 BC, Octavian took a crucial step that would define his reign. He offered to give up his extraordinary powers, presenting himself as a servant of the Republic. In return, the Senate granted him the title Augustus, effectively making him the first Roman emperor. While Augustus retained the outward form of the Republic, with the Senate and other republican institutions still in place, he controlled the military and the political levers of power. Augustus, understanding the importance of stability, worked tirelessly to maintain peace within the empire. Under his rule, Rome entered what historians call the Pax Romana, a period of more than 200 years of relative peace and prosperity. Augustus reformed the military, established a standing army, and paid soldiers a regular salary. He also reformed the tax system and sponsored monumental public works projects, including the construction of temples, roads, and aqueducts. However, Augustus was not content with mere stability. He sought to create a new Rome, one that was both mighty and just. He encouraged traditional Roman values, such as family and morality, and used the state's resources to promote these values across the empire. Augustus worked to solidify his power, but unlike his predecessors, He understood that the key to Rome's longevity was not in military conquest alone, but in internal peace and governance. His reign also saw the expansion of Rome's borders, most notably into Britain and parts of modern-day Germany. Augustus, however, understood that the empire's borders were too vast to govern directly, so he delegated authority to provincial governors while maintaining overall control from Rome. This system of governance allowed Augustus to maintain peace while expanding the empire's influence across the Mediterranean and beyond. The reign of Augustus brought unparalleled success to Rome, but it also set the stage for future challenges. Augustus passed away in AD 14, but his legacy lived on through the empire he built. His reign marked the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire, which would dominate the Mediterranean world for centuries. Augustus was succeeded by his stepson, Tiberius, but the principles and reforms he instituted would continue to shape Roman governance long after his death. Under Augustus, Rome had undergone a transformation from a republic with a fragile political system to a centralized autocracy with an emperor at its head. The Pax Romana that Augustus established provided a foundation for economic prosperity, cultural development, and military expansion. Under his reign, the arts and architecture flourished, and poets like Virgil and Ovid produced works that would become foundational to Western literature. Augustus also ensured that the Roman legal system would become a model for future legal systems, with his establishment of the Roman law and the Roman civil law still influencing legal traditions today. The political system that Augustus created, with its balance of power between the emperor and the Senate, would continue in various forms throughout Roman history. While the empire would experience periods of instability and decline, the principles Augustus put in place were central to its long-lasting success. Conclusion: the legacy of the Roman Empire and the end of the Republic's final reflection, the death of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire, were not the results of any one individual's actions, but a series of events driven by political conflict, military ambition, and the changing nature of Roman society. From Julius Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon to Augustus' rise to power, the transformation of Rome was inevitable. The victory of Augustus, however, ensured that the empire would flourish and endure for centuries. Augustus was not just the first emperor. He was the architect of the Roman Empire. His reign marked the beginning of a new era in Roman history, one that would shape the Western world for millennia. Though the Roman Empire would eventually fall, the legacy of Augustus' vision for Rome, the Pax Romana, the reforms in military, governance, and law, remains an essential part of Western civilization to this day.